switched into a green jumper, obviously.
Okay, there we go. So you should all be seeing the spreadsheet, and I am recording. So with that, I would like to welcome everybody to the second edition of Four Coaches and Adult Beverages. I'm having a Tullamore Dew, which is a nice Irish whiskey. If you haven't had actual real triple pot distilled Irish whiskeys, they are quite a lot of fun. I don't know if you can get them in the States. Mostly it's just Jameson and maybe some Bushnells. But for those who are planning on coming out here for a live draft, definitely try to sample some when you get here.
Cool.
Is anybody else imbibing?
Yeah, I've switched now, and I'm on the Toro Loco this time, which is
here we go.
an interesting wine.
Is that crazy bull in Spanish?
It is. So it's that one.
There you go. I've got a little rum and lemonade going on today.
Okay, rum and lemonade. Okay.
Yeah, it's an odd taste, but not bad.
Okay. I've got Enu gin, a Scottish gin, and some rubbish tonic because I smashed the glass from the last one. All good. You can hear that.
Just our
It was my plan to be on some decent gin and tonic, and he discovered shortly before now that no tonic left in my abode, so had to switch to plan B.
I'm a big fan of Citadel gin when I'm drinking gin, which is, French. I don't know how well our British cousins like that, but also right now I haven't got one yet, but there's Stuttgarter gin, which supposedly won like the world championship, which is made right here in Germany. But I'm gonna have to give that a sample. So real quick, and for anybody who wants to email me, I can shoot them the spreadsheet. What we have and what you should be seeing is when my wife had the Titans back in season 21, this is kind of a spreadsheet that I developed and she used, and this will tell you all of the people. I talked last week real quick about, in the planning thing, I think about strategy, which is your 5-year plan to get where you want to be or build that team. And then operational thinking, which is where we're in, which is how you're going to build that team and maintain it, and what you're going to do with it. And so Dill's strategy with this, we came up with was using a 3-wide eye for offense, and then really focusing on trying to have a close-in, strong ground game to force people to keep those front four in gap rather than having them rush the passer all the time. And then a split quarterback with a short zone game that could reach out and hit the long zone at times. So you guys had about a week to look at it, and let me just start with Jeff, get your opinions or your comments on this and any insight you might have that new coaches might like.
For me, I was looking at it. I was really looking at, spent the most time when I was looking at it, actually, was looking at the running backs, the quarterback, running back, wide receivers, because it, and the thing that I liked about it the best was, if I'm reading this right. So your QSTs, am I seeing this right, Mike? On the very far right end,
yep,
they give you, if it shows they're adjusted, right?
Yeah. So real quick, if we take like
wood. I'm looking at wood.
Yeah. So level 15, right?
Yeah.
And he's got you add plus 0.3 to that because that's his experience. That gives you adjusted level, and then you basically break that level down by your basic percentages because they always equal 100.
Yeah.
And that gives you this. And then this one here was that's kind of a running thing I did. Like you can see, like if you go down to Wilson, he had a 0.8.
Yeah.
And Cole had a 0.5, so he's out. And that'll give you, is it worth it to run him or not?
Yep.
And then if I flipped over, I take them and the guys and then all the various formulas, and that sort of gives you, based on who's going to carry the ball, sort of what a weighted number is that comes out of the basic formula. And, you can basically just do that and pick your top 8 plays.
Right.
Right.
Which is why I thought it was real interesting the way your quarterback then, and because he's your T quarterback, was was matching up back then with the wide receivers. And especially I think Thimble was the guy I was looking at the most, and how those correlate. Now, was this over an entire season? What you've got in there right now?
Yeah,
this one that I'm looking at, right?
This was week 4 of season 21. That's the
Okay.
level they were at.
Okay. And I take it that you added on to that every week, correct?
Yeah, so every week,
did you?
if you got coaching, you would just adjust the basic
Right,
roster
up and down.
and then move things
Yeah.
up.
So to me, I think I see anyway, where it can help you out when you're looking at your like for you guys, for your passing to your receivers, who's really being productive, who's able to be productive, and who is just kind of there, doing whatever. But I thought it was interesting. And that offense isn't meant to have a tight end much in that. So, and you can see, and that reflects that. But from a quarterback, receivers, and then your running back, Morris, was your fullback, but your halfback was Lewis. Did she run the middle a lot?
Yeah, Lewis was a tech back, and he was there
Yeah.
pretty much just to do the dump off passes, and it added some screen
Yeah.
capability and that kind of stuff to it.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan, any comments?
Yeah.
First of all, whilst they were a decent, strong side, I wonder if they weren't missing something, certainly offensively, in that they've gone for mixed. There were mixed UST QBs, and for me, if you're going to use a mixed QST QB, then you need to be hitting both short zone and deep zone on the passing. But all the receivers were definitely orientated towards short zone. I mean, obviously, Thimble was the number 1 at the time, I seem to recall, but they were definitely orientated towards the short zone. So she had what she had, but I wonder at having a mixed one when you're doing that. I think she'd actually been better off with for that particular team there. She'd been better off with a high T.
Yeah. She wound up losing to the Rogues in the playoffs in a game I don't know if she should have lost, and then she kind of got tired of the game and dropped. And then like the next season, I think she was with I think whoever picked up the team, it was the next season or the season after, they were in the conference championships with Virginia. And I think that was when Virginia won the bowl for the first time. But I think you're right. If you look here, if you look at the long pass, the split end has 117, and granted he gets it 73% of the time. But if she would have had an 80 Q split end of equivalent level, this number would have been a lot higher, and it would have been I think it would have been a threat that would have given her an extra ball.
Yeah, it just seemed like you're wasting part. If you're going for that formation, which is an interesting one, because it means you don't have to bother with tight ends at all. So that saves, and you can devote more resources to other positions. You actually got a tight end in there, which I presume was a leftover from when she wasn't playing this formation, and probably should have traded him out as quick as she could. But all the QVs were all mixed. It wasn't like one of them was. Her backups were mixed as well. So she obviously intent upon playing mixed.
Yeah.
And the other one is, if you're going to do that again, right, you were playing a halfback as a tech back, but the fullback is an ordinary running back, but the halfback is a tech back. So again, if you're going to make use of that halfback as a tech back mostly, then again a T quarterback would have been better, because that tech back ain't doing any runs to the outside in a hurry. So that would have been my main comments. And then actually, I just think she had just a very good defense.
Yep.
There's a lot of good players in there. A lot of good players.
How about you, Lee? Do you got any comments?
Yeah, similar to John's, really. My first reaction was, for me, I would have gone for a quick wide receiver for this offense. would have gone just because I think that would have been a deep threat, especially with the mixed QST QB. And I think John, it's that thing. I think John's right in a way that you have to commit. So for me also, if you're going to go for a short zone QB, a tech QB, then I would definitely invest in a tight end or two, because I think when you've got a tech tight end and a tech QB, that's a massive play. That quick pass, as I'm sure Jeff will tell us. Now that he's setting up a Camarillo to come to the, but I just think it's kind of, so I would have gone, for me, if I was Dill, I would have gone for a quick wide receiver just to have had a deep threat, because I think that's more dangerous, and that's the way you got the team set up. Yeah. I think, and kept the quarterback the same. But if you really committed towards the short zone, I don't think there's a kind of bit of a waste of using a split QST QB. That's my criticism of this team. But I think it's a great tool, though, Mike. This is a fabulous tool. I've got some shit. I've got like my stuff is all. I do the same, but I do it on paper. So I sit there and scribble out because you kind of get an intuition for it.
Yeah.
When it comes to start of the season, I go through all the scores again and just see what my top team, I work out all the formula using a calculator and pen and pencil. So this is amazing. So congratulations.
Well, Phil, like I said, I sent it out to you, so feel free to use the backbone. One thing I talked about this before we got screwed up with my poor Wi-Fi last week. Just for the junior coaches who are looking at this, if you look at her setup on defense, so for her, let's see, 4-3. So she had a 4-3 against the short zone defense. And you can see with a 4-3 how you got these really good numbers against the run line and pretty good against the run flat. And then not so much, even though she had some good backs in there against the short zone and a little less in the deep zone. But then when you flip to a 3-3 nickel, you immediately see you don't lose a lot in the run flat. You do lose a little in the run line, but these numbers are just huge. I mean, there's a definite increase in the short zone and deep zone, and that's why I think any coach out there who wants to be serious about winning, especially in the Delta, because there's people know how to pass in the Delta. You have to plan to put some sort of 3-3 nickel on the field. But so with that, I'm going to flip to a different screen. Let's see. And where is... Okay, so first off, let's see. Some of this was for last week, and I'll probably save it. So is everybody seeing a PowerPoint?
Yes.
I'm seeing half of it.
Does it say?
Yeah, half of it.
Oh, you're seeing half of it.
Yeah, it says player age at the end of previous season.
Okay, I don't know why I'm not seeing it on mine, but that's fine. I'll bring it up. Okay, I got it.
There we go.
You got all of it now? Okay.
Yeah.
That out of the way.
As a matter of interest, I wish they'd put this on its own separate thing, so I don't have to keep going down the rules to the 3/4 of the way down or wherever when I want to go and look them up. This sort of table, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
So it's a little one you can just copy on its own, but just a minor niggle. But
No, it'd be nice if you could click to the reference and just pop this table up.
Yes.
So I would tell every coach out there who hasn't been doing it, this is in the PDF file on team management for professionals. And I would have this out and open whenever you're dealing with trades and especially trades, because this is, and I know Lee talked about it some in his last podcast, but you need to understand what happens when you roll a 7, 8, and 9 and how that interacts with age. And I wanted to, now kickers have their own thing. I didn't bother putting it up because they last forever, but everybody else, including the punter, has to live by this. And this is like death in gridiron, right? It's like death in taxes. This is This is how it operates, and you need to know it. So I wanted to throw that out there quickly because before I move on to something else, anybody has any comments on it, I'll pause here. But when we get into talking trades, I think everybody knowing that this exists and this is out there is going to help a lot.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
And obviously, when you're looking at the pre-agings, you need to know which, it says C, that means 5 or 6. It says
Yeah.
B, it means 3 or 4. Yes, it's true they can get it wrong and be out a little bit, and you can bear that in mind, but you need to know it's going to be just those 2 lines is the most likely by far. So, for someone who's not really used to that, they may think, they may not realise that how exactly where the letters are, but that's easy. Again, I wouldn't have minded them on the little sheet. They could put a thicker line between 2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah.
So that people really, because that's when you're looking at this most of the time, isn't it? It's when you're looking at your pre-aging. Because we all know the mid-season one. Well,
this one right here. Yeah. Yeah, the mid-season one doesn't. I was happy with the mid-season one, and then I saw that my pre-aging, and I got my 19 Ds, and I was not.
Where did that come from? Yeah.
Not near as happy. Yeah, it's like I have an inverted bell curve. I think there was like 2 or 3 Cs, and there was like 19 Ds. But so the last thing before I move on to the trades, I just let everybody know and this is just me. I often try to think that, you know what? I could get this right here, right? I could get this. Look at this +3 zone, and that could happen, and it could work out this way. When the truth of the matter is, usually you're getting this, right?
Yes.
A lot more negatives. And so in the planning community in the military, we have to develop courses of action. We call them COAs. And one of the things that comes up a lot of times is, hope is not a COA. And I would say that when you're planning your trades and stuff like that. Hope isn't a COA. Look at reality. Plan for the bad rolls, and then
Actually,
like life.
I had 11 E's on my par this time, and that's one of my better ones.
Yeah. So that can always be wrong, and it can always go up.
I know, but assume that it's not.
So a real quick side note I want to throw out while we're talking aging, because I did this once. I might have read the rules wrong. I went back and read them again. And I want to do one of these on coaches, but the developmental assistant, if I read the rules right, if you have young players that roll well, it will actually drop your roll down.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've heard that.
He's there to stop disasters. He's not there to help you out if you get a good one.
Yeah, I think it moves everything towards the middle.
Yeah.
And if you have an old team, it might be helpful. But I remember when I paid a bunch to get one when I had a young team, and I got completely screwed. Because it was and when you see like an A on a rookie go down, you really want to hurt somebody. It's not a fun thing. So I'd be careful with thinking the development assistant is a wonderful thing, and to read those rules carefully.
Yeah, just touch on that a bit, Mike. What I'd say to new coaches and coaches of who should know better really, but is if you're going to sign a coach that isn't on the coaching boards, and you think, that looks like motivational coach or developmental assistant or front office manager, read the rules. Yeah, they can cost a lot of money, and they can be absolutely minimal use or next to no use at all. So,
somebody, I don't know, it was about 3 seasons ago, signed the motivation coach, I think it was, and they finished 1-9 or something. I mean, they need to realise that's just wasted 25 points that they could have been using somewhere else, because they aren't going to need a motivational coach when you're.
Unless you won the bowl or been in the bowl final, don't sign the motivational coach.
Yeah,
because it does give you high motivation, but it's a massive cost. 35 coaching points is a huge cost that you can pick up a level 10 offensive or defensive coach. You can do a brilliant job of building your team. I just think it don't get unless you're in the bowl.
Yeah,
that's it.
So you're keeping yours this year, right?
I'm going to sign you. Yeah, I'm going to sign him up again next year.
There you go.
But it's like, I think Simon would put up really well as a kind of, it's a tax on the people who go to the bowl. So if I have to spend that money, and so does Eric, if we want if our teams want to play the same way they did this year. And I think that's a good thing. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a good thing to tax the guys that got to the bowl. Do you know what I mean? And gives us a less opportunity to do coaching. And I got to say, my coaching was the worst levels I gained in a season for a long time. Do you know what I mean? So, I think that was part of it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I won the bowl, but it's hard. There's hark at me. It's fuck off. No one cares about my hardships. But anyway, let's move on. Sorry, Mike.
All right. No, that's good. So I think so. Right now, everybody should be seeing my PowerPoint that says trade summary.
Right.
Okay, good. So I'll just let Jeff go because this is Jeff's trade with Tortuga. So
okay.
Yeah, Simon came back with a vengeance. I mean, I'm almost wondering if, like, the last one of these I put out, and I know Aaron talked about, well, he would rather just go get something with trade, because I mean, I don't think I've seen this much crazy trade activity in a while. There's been some big trades early on. But go ahead, Jeff, take it away.
Okay, so what I looked for there, I don't usually like, to be honest, I don't like trading away first, second, and third round picks too often. I've done it. I did it with a couple seasons ago. I did it with Lee because the value that I was getting there made it worth my while to do that, and I traded. Well, it was kind of the same thing here. I was looking at the draft, and to tell you the truth, I'm not real impressed with this draft in many of the positions. There's a few positions that there are some more than others. I don't think for quick running backs, there are some good quick running backs in the draft, but the odds of them or the one that I would want to get in the first round were going to be probably not happening where I'm at. I'm down at 19. I might be able to get one, but the things that I needed, I felt like, to get me over the hump, or at least to really give me a much better chance next year, is the key for me was Bastogne. I've got one decent cornerback. The other one was weak, and he's not been, even though he's young, he has not been aging well, and he's not been leveling well. So I needed something more at the other cornerback. So Bastogne was what I was looking for originally. And then all of a sudden I got to looking at what he had up. And as Lee knows, and everybody knows, because I've yelped about this from the time it started happening, I needed a much better kicker than what I've got. My kicker was basically barely over a 50% kicker. He missed 2 kicks from inside the 5-yard line this season. And so he's got this Redgrave, who for me, he's I think he's like a level 10.3, I believe, that I was able to get. And then I took Stefanini. I know is an older guy, but he's a very strong guy. And I have that's going to give me 2 excellent, even if he drops 3 or 4 levels, I don't care, because he's going to give me something that I really needed an allowance to. I'm going to go back and be able to run. While I like the 33, I prefer the 33. There are times I want to run a 42 on pass defense. But some of the teams that you do that's when they start trying to pop you with an inside, with draws or some inside play. Well, I'll be able to pretty much take care of that business. But it also allows me to stay in a 43 defense too, if I want to. So I went and I threw in the 5th round because I felt like I might need it to get Nathan over the top. And it did, because when I first started talking to Nathan at first, he was, maybe. And then I come to find out, well, I was talking to him about Bastogne, and he had a better offer.
Yeah, that was me.
Michael. That was Thank Michael. You. I didn't know it, but it was Michael. So then I came back to him and I said, well, let's make a better deal out of this. And so I offered him these picks for the 3, and he said, oh yeah, that's better. Okay, let's do it. So I'm at that point, as Aaron was talking about, where I'm getting to the point where I think I can compete. I'll be real honest, the guys would tell you this too. I should win the GFC East if I do things right this season. Andy's gutted his team. Kendall's traded away most of his really good talent right now. He'll still be tough defensively, but he's traded away a lot of his talent. And then the Enlightenment are still rebuilding. So I'm in a pretty good position to do that. And if some other things fall into place, there's and I hate doing this, because as soon as you start saying, well, I'm going to be all this and this and this, you better be able to back it up. But I've got the potential to have a pretty decent season this year. So I felt like I needed to plug some holes for the next couple of seasons. Season 32, I'm going to look at starting getting draft picks, because there's going to be some quality players I need to start changing out on. But to me, doing it this way buys me 2 to 3 seasons on some things and gets me over the hump, I think, until I get my first G injury, and then I'll hate the whole thing. But so that's why I went this way. And even though my team is older anyway, and I tend to run with veteran teams, so there's often when I get some players, I know I'm only going to get 2 to 3 seasons, but that's okay. It's made me a competitive team.
This is a contender's trade, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
This is it. I can tell you're like in for this. When you're trading out a round 2 and 1 pick for age 7, age 5 has-beens from my division, I know that you're desperate to get there, buddy. Wish you all the best, but there's some old players there, mate. I think
it's with trades, trades are always in the eye of the beholder, right?
Totally.
But for this one, I have to say, plus to Tortuga, I think Tortuga got the better deal. I mean, if I could have lost those 3 players, and really what made it lean that way to me was, age 6, man, that guy's, that's hope as a Koa, because you got him. If you don't do it this season, you could be looking at him dropping rapidly next season. But anyway.
Well, that's the whole thing. I did look. That's interesting you'd say that, Michael, because I did look at, when you're saying this season, I looked at let's be real blunt here. I'm not playing a first place team schedule. Yep. I looked at my schedule, and last year, this past season, I was within an inch of getting over that hump and winning, but I was short. The 3 players I needed, I couldn't get a hold of. I didn't have, that I really, really needed. And I ended up getting burned out of the playoffs because I didn't have what I needed. So is this going to be a long-term fix? No, they're not. It is a short-term fix, because I've got to play. I don't have a first place team schedule, but I've got some teams in there that are going to give me trouble. I pulled Forsberg first game. Yeah. So, with this team I have right now, before I made trades, I couldn't play with him. I know I couldn't play with him. I have to adjust some things. So, I'm going to burn it. If you want to get, as Aaron himself has said, sometimes if you want to get to the Super Bowl, you burn it right now, because you may not get that chance. And I've got a problem with a couple of other players that I'm going to be losing down the road.
Yeah, so, brother, if we see the now Plainsfield Colts as the division champions for the first time, in Delta history, I'm going to be happy to see that. To me, it will have been worth it to break that paradigm and move forward. Any comments, Jonathan?
Totally, mate. Yeah, I wish you all the best, Jeff. I really do. I was only one year. I know. But you're obviously in it to win it. That's what I'm saying. It's a contender's trail. I can see what exactly is filling all the gaps you've got on your defense. And I think, that you've gone for it. And I think fair play to you. And I think I've got no problem with the trade at all. I think it's a move. But I think that, yeah, it's that giving your guys a shot at the bowl is amazing. And I think, you're thinking ahead, you're thinking about the season, you're thinking about your division. After you get out of your division, you can't worry about injuries and shit like that, Jeff. You just gotta hope for the best. I mean, and just kind of get out there and get after it. So yeah, amazing.
All right. Well, I'm going to move on unless you got something blazing. Next one.
Well, I could just add.
Okay.
You weren't the only one who was right. From some points of view, Jeff overpaid, but the reason he overpaid because that was the market. Because if you haven't noticed, cornerbacks are absolutely like gold dust at the moment, and believe me, Michael, you weren't, and Jeff weren't the only ones who were trying to get. So I totally am on board with why Jeff would do that, because he had to outbid everybody else. Excuse me. Because I can't stop myself from trading that it's more than I would have paid, but if he needs it, then he needs it. As simple as that, and that's what they were there. And I also just going to throw in, I really like that kicker. I would have been quite interested because that strength means you're going to be kicking the ball a long way from the kickoffs as well as the one. So unless you're playing against people who've got really, really good returners, that's going to be a big issue for a lot of teams. You're going to be nailing them back a long way, and he's going to get a lot of, still because he's level, he's still going to get a lot of field goals. So I quite liked it. Nathan had a number of offers, shall we say, of multiple players. I was one of them, but I didn't get. So, but it was a different combination. But I totally get this. Frankly, from his point of view, it's what he wanted straight away. So, if I'd been in his position, I'd gone in and I said, right, I need a lot of. I'm going to get rid of everybody and get as many picks as I can and make this my team as soon as possible.
Well, like I said,
I've done what he did. So.
Yeah, trades are in the eye of the beholder. I mean, you I'm looking at it from a totally outside. I think value-wise, Nathan won. But again, if it's those particular things that Jeff needs to make a strong run, then he got what he wanted. And you can't, you only get so many times when you get to that point where you can sacrifice your draft more or less to get that edge that kicks you over the top. So, Jonathan, you can be talking a bit here because this monstrosity. Right, so for those you don't know, Jonathan has a nickname of Trader John, not to be confused with Trader Johan from How to Train Your Dragon. But John loves these trades, which you really got to sit down and pick apart because. It's been my experience, at least, Jonathan, that if I come with you with my trade, which is usually like, hey, I want to trade this guy for that guy, I usually get a result of, well, what if about this guy too, and then these picks and those picks for you, and then I'll send you a hamburger next Tuesday, and your team gets free Gatorade for a year. and so you really got to do it. But please lead us through this one. Offhand, I think you did well. I mean, there's a lot of really good picks that you picked up, although you lost some guys, and then later on you switched them around with those. But really, yeah, lead us through how this happened, John.
Well, first I should sort of emphasise that it was actually Simon who contacted me with the sort of basis of this. It wasn't exactly how it ended up, but it was certainly the basics of how the deal would go. He was incredibly keen to get hold of both of and they were stud running backs. Like I said, if they hadn't been injured, I'm convinced I would have made quite a deep run in this season just gone. And to get them both at the same time was very important to him, which I think, fair play, that's what he wanted. I looked at it and frankly, I just couldn't resist the value because for me, I was picking up more in value from my side. It was very interesting that he asked for all the low picks because obviously I was intending to use those to their maximum value because it was going to be a live draft. Once it was no longer a live draft, then I was much more prepared to let those ones go. But it means at least he will have. If people will think, oh, he's sacrificed everything. He will have lots of low-level young guys who will be no doubt coaching away furiously and picking up lots of levels. The other bits of the tackles and the running back, they're sort of they're interesting, but they're minor additions. I know what they are, and they're for a different sort of reason. But and frankly, some of those picks, at least, I deliberately got with the express intention of just using them as ammunition to buy people, and the reason is that I have a dream plan of doing a certain type of offense, which I think hasn't been at least consistently done ever in the past. It's still not finished, but I have got quite a long way to getting that one there. It isn't necessarily going to win. It just is something new. So I want to do it, and I'm a couple of trades away yet from getting there, but I would love to be in that position to do it. Just not least of which because it would give air on kittens, so that does for me. The other thing is you have to be prepared to be bold in a lot of these drafts, trades, rather. I think a lot of people would be scared, and I would not advise any new coaches to do any deal that involved this many picks, because later down the line you might make a mistake. But I mean, Simon is a very experienced coach.
Yeah, I would. One thing I would say with
he's not gone into this blindly. He got what he wanted, and apparently he's been on about it for a long time. So
no, I think this smacks of Simon really getting tired and wanting to make his move, because this looks, again, you talked about I forget the term you used, but the competitors. What's that?
Contenders.
Yes, the contenders. This was another one. This was another. He's laying it out, and he's basically saying, he's wants to take the conference this time, because with those ages, you might get one of them that hangs around. But
don't get me wrong, I was reluctant, but he was very persistent.
Yeah,
he really, really wanted it.
Well, and I think with those, those low round picks he has, those are kind of like lottery tickets. And if he gets the right QSTs on those, he may get one or two of them that get an A and pick up an automatically 3 and roll up. Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments on this other than it kind of boggled my mind when I was through it. I would have never agreed to this, Jonathan. No way. This would have turned out. No, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a pick for Bull Rush. That's basically the way I would have come back.
Remember, it was him to me, not the other way around. Was the main bit of this.
I just think, what an incredible community we've got right now. Let's just think about the type of players that are on the boards right now. I've never known anything like it. John must be in absolute heaven, and he's having the time of his life. I mean, I know he was once a young man and, living his dreams and stuff, but this is the stuff of dreams. This is John at number one, getting massive, massive value out of a load of has-beens. Cast-offs, Lone Stars, cast-offs, dirty, bottom of the barrel rubbish that Aaron couldn't shift last season. Now, John's magicked it into 8 amazing first 4-round picks. I mean, this is incredible stuff, and fair play to Simon. This is desperation, I feel, and I hope it's a big, playing field and Metro's kind of ball. Because otherwise, the guys are going to look like, oh my God, we were overpaid. But I get it, completely get it with John, and fair play to Simon as well, because there's one player that can't resist a big offer, and that's John. And I think that Simon's done a great thing. All joking aside, I think he's bold. He obviously believes in his team. He believes that they're ready for the bowl run, and he's gone out and he's put his fucking bollocks on the line and said, "Come on, let's get it." And he's got a shot.
Part of it's interesting because it's something. So I think I mentioned this before. I didn't really see this season as one where I even would have got as far as I did, But although the 19Ds are a bit of a speed bump, I do think next season my team's going to be very strong with everything I had. And I was making plans, and now this is a different plan. This is, this is something completely different because, usually when I think of the Metros, I'm thinking, okay, it's short pass, and do you have the stuff to stop it? Now it's not just short pass. There's other things that are definitely in the mix, and that's another thing I got to worry about. So it definitely is interesting seeing this churn. Okay, on to the next.
Wait, one thing I want to say. This is the only thing, because forget the 23 players. 7 different teams of 7th and 8th round picks. 7 different teams. That's unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah, let alone just to keep track.
I accumulate round 7s every year.
I know you do. This is like when you start counting out your pennies.
It's
when you bought something and now it's $25.07. Instead of giving them 26, you start counting out $1 worth of pennies to throw in there too.
Yeah, like low level draft picks are kind of like condiments for Jonathan when it comes to trading.
Yeah, I know.
Like, here's a hamburger, and I'll give you some mustard with it if you can add this.
Look at it, money. It's exchange.
Yeah.
It's a mode of exchange. I often take lower picks in simply because I could use them again.
There you are.
It depends, but I do prefer them in the live draft. I like a lot of low picks in the live draft. I know a lot of other people will say you get rubbish players. I don't care. I think it's worth a chance to see if you can get a gem or whatever you out of some of those ones you go for. So. It's right. Who said use the phrase lottery ticket? Was it you, Michael?
Yeah, the lottery tickets.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. All those low picks. You think that's right, but look back. Sometimes the low guys turn out to be the top guys in your team, or even, frankly, even the ones you pick up as free agents do. So there's no harm. But what you realise is you're taking a gamble with that low round one. He may come off, but there's a good chance he won't. But if you've got enough of them, some of them will.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think it's when Seth had the Silverbacks, Jake Cruz, who was a really outstanding cornerback for forever. I want to say he started out super low level. He might have been like a 5th round, good QSTs, but I think he was like a 3 or 4, not a lot. And and that's one of those things with taking a chance is, you get those 4 quick bumps and maybe you get an extra point bonus in his rookie year, and then you hit an A and he gets those 3, and suddenly you've added 8 to a player, right? And if he had good QSTs, you're off to the races at that point. Okay, so this is Virginia's. I'll let if you want to go ahead and start, Lee. So here's the Virginia trade. Railer went out. Any comments on that?
Yeah. I think this is a great trade for John. Again, I think John's done brilliantly well in this, as I would expect. For a man of his stature and legendary status to do this. That's probably why I don't trade very often with John, because he's a hard bargain. But I think he's got good value here. I think some good young players. Really like Zoid. I think he's a great. I mean, he hasn't got perfect QST, but his level makes up for it. I like that dude. I think he's a great capture. And yeah, a lot of picks, but John had to spare. John, because I thought Simon overpaid in the first trade. So plenty here, and to get away with these players without giving away a first round, I think is a fabulous piece of work, John.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Zoid was the best one.
Yeah,
of the players. I thought Zoid was the best of his players there. That he did release. I mean, I agree. He doesn't have great QSTs, but he was a real productive player for Kendall.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, without giving too much, I only had one really good inside linebacker, which left me very open to if he had an issue with Nocta, who was really good, but he was on his own. So in that sense, that was important to me to get somebody else in case.
And Zoid's a young guy.
If I ever want to play two inside linebackers, all the rest are because of my cunning offensive plan. But I still need more. But that's the idea. We'll see. It still relies on me picking up another.
One of the things I thought was kind of interesting, Jonathan. Hopefully, I'm not lifting the curtain, but the quarterback. So I actually pinged Kendall about a couple of these guys too, and one of them was the quarterback, just from the fact that when everybody sees Q, they think of a running quarterback, but when you have a guy like this, there's some definite options in there to use things like the rollout, and I want to say the screen. There's a couple little things that, and nobody tends to put a lot on defense to stop them. So I could see those becoming, who spends a lot of time building up their coaching against the rollout? Nobody, right? Because it's hardly ever used, and I could see those being real beneficial.
I simply thought that Kendall did what he could with what he had, but I think Nibs gives you the opportunity to attack all the zones in the same 8, which will be interesting to defend for somebody who's got to defend against it. But you can't put all your eggs in one basket and stop one zone if you're attacking all 4 at the same time.
So having lost to La Jolla multiple times in the playoffs,
Join the club.
Yeah, I can honestly say that the only way you can stop somebody who can effectively hit all 4 zones is to just have a strong overall defense. There's really a lot. Not if they tend to go, I'm all deep pass, or I'm all short run or whatever. You can stance pretty effectively with a mediocre or a solid, decent defense. But if they can hit all 4 zones, you just have to have an outstanding defense in place in order to shut that down.
No pressure error on them.
So I'm gonna move on to the same trades. So there's my 2 trades on here, and then I'll let Lee talk about his. So these are trades I like to make, and it could be the reason that I've always had the Hammer Sharks have always been a tough team, but never a bowl team yet, is because I don't make the big moves. I was looking at doing that this year maybe, but I just didn't see what I needed yet. But the top trade to me is a good example of a good trade for junior guys to look at. If you're just getting started, this is where I would put your toe in the water. I picked up a brand new rookie tight end that is a good tight end that I can start putting in as a backup and building up to fill some gaps. And he got a pretty solid defensive end. Not outstanding, but somebody who's not too bad. I think we both got what we wanted. I might have came out a little ahead on this one. The next one, I got a little glassy-eyed. I'd been talking with the Hornets for a while about this, and he wanted Lywell and I wanted Hiller. I don't really know if I needed Hiller, but I sort of had been talking to him a lot, so I went ahead with the trade because I could lose Lywell. But I do think he picked up a pretty good safety for, speed will be really good for pass protection, but speed isn't super useful in a tight end when it comes to actual, offensive potential. But any comments on those 2?
I thought Green was kind of a steal there because on your first one, I really like him. For his rookie season, guy had a really nice first season. Green did. So I'm kind of, I don't know exactly where he's building towards. I haven't really looked to see what he's actually building towards. But I thought Green is a guy that can really help you down the road, faster than slower. I think he's got. I know he's got to get more levels and all that stuff, but he's got potential.
Yeah, the thing I liked about it for me was I had Agagas, which was another techie tight end who I'd been dumping coaching points into, didn't do anything. He was around age 3, so it was that point where it was, hanging out just around below 10, where it's like, you know, it was put up or shut up. And then, so I can throw Agagas out on the trade board, and then this guy now is sort of in the same position, but he's age 0, which is going to be a big benefit.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about your one-on-one, Lee.
Oh yeah, just I scouted Londoner a couple of seasons ago. I missed him on the draft. Phil nabbed him from me, and it was just an opportunity to trade youth for age. Really, you know, keep the clock winding back. Really love that 5 tech on the outside linebackers. Love that. I see Londoner as a starter in a couple of seasons, maybe even next season. A guy I'm going to put a lot of effort into making a really good player. And Cray has kind of had his day. He's level 14. He's got red zone, which is great. He's a good backup, but I just felt like I needed to. It's that thing. I'm sure you guys know about this. It's about knowing when to cash your chips in. Knowing when you can sort of like get the best sort of deal for that player that isn't, okay, maybe I could have ran him for another season as a kind of semi, but he wouldn't have ran a lot, do you know what I mean? And I just felt like, there's an opportunity to get Londoner. And I just thought that was a too good opportunity to miss. I chucked the 6th round in there as well, because I didn't think it was a good matchup really for Phil. So he got a little bit extra out of that. And I felt that was a fair deal. I'm really ecstatic about getting such a great player in, you know, hopefully into the team. And you know, you see all these quick running backs. There's more on the board this year. You're going to need those big outside linebackers, guys, if you're going to win the ball.
I think for all the deriving that was done the last time I did one of these by everybody talking about outside linebackers being boring and I never picking one up the first round. If you take a look at all the fast running backs that are coming out, I would be thinking about outside linebackers.
Totally, mate. If you look at like Phil and Aaron, 2 of the better teams. Also, if you look at the Cougars, they've all got their guys young, but they've all got fast running backs, right? You need to stop those guys. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to meet them eventually, and you need to have those outside linebackers. They're the best. They're your first line defense. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, for me, it's a no-brainer to want to have strong, you know, level 13 plus outside linebackers on both sides.
And here's a little lesson for newer coaches. In particular, if you look at the first and the third deal, the one that Lee did and your first one, Michael, which is that somebody has said that their priority is to get somebody younger who's still more of a project, but you know that they've got more development to come, hopefully, and what have you. And the other person has said, no, my need at the moment is to have somebody higher level who's older, who's got to do a job that I really, really badly need, right? And that is a common way where you get both players, both coaches feel they've gained from a trade because they've both got what they needed for something that they valued lower, but the other person in the deal values higher. So, for example, the first deal, Green won't, you know, he's not likely to be playing in the season that's coming up right now. I'm assuming that, you know, that Michael's got better players, shall we say, in that position. But in the long term, he's a much better prospect than Rossland is. But he's obviously giving up something that that would help him, but presumably he's already got decent defensive ends. Whereas the Plague really need some of that right now. They know what they've been struggling with, and they know they needed that. And perhaps they've got other projects as well, and don't want to keep devoting resources to Green because they've got other ones. So it's in their interest, both their interests, to make that, and it's a net gain for both teams. I think that first term. The third one is as well with Lee, except that I think somebody looking from outside would say that Lee's got the better deal, frankly. But Um,
Yeah.
Phil didn't get rid of it without knowing what he needed. He knew he'd actually posted that he needed somebody of that higher level as a backup. He's worried about people getting injured or what have you. And so that suited him. And again, I think in his case, he's probably already got good outside linebackers, so that's something he could spare. The other issue, though, why it's a big game for Lee is because one thing you need to do as a rookie coach is look at what's coming up. You already alluded to it when you said about all the 65Q running backs. Is that you, Michael Jeff? Anyway, the outside back linebackers in this current draft really don't have the strength required to help stop a whole load of these new running backs appearing. Therefore, outside linebackers, a bit like Jeff earlier with a cornerback, because there were so few available, the market is meaning he's getting extra value from that, and that's a good thing. I'm not so clear on the middle draft pick because they're very different players, very different situations. If that's what you both need, that's fine. I can see a use for them in both ways, but it's that one's one where the individual team knows what they need. But those two, you can see both coaches getting extra from what they want, and that's really what those are the best deals. To be honest, usually are the ones where both coaches enhance their chances, and that means everybody else isn't so good. So that's fine.
All right. Let's see. So you want to take this one, Jeff? The York.
Yeah. Again, I'm a little bit surprised. Well, I wasn't. That Andy let Spawn go, especially in this now that he's done this later trade with Jonathan today, where he let his veteran center go also. He may have grown a little bit disenchanted because when he played me and his starting center, he had to use Spawn. I believe he had to use Spawn, and I think if I remember right, and they had quite a bit of problems with that. Now, really, I think Andy got way the better of this deal. And I can say that because I played against both of these wide receivers. Honeycutt and, Beverly Bay gave up 2 first round for these 3 guys. Well, Spawn's very young. He'll develop some. But Cubert's on the downside age-wise, and Honeycutt, neither one of them statistically were real great players. They were good, and they were steady. Don't get me wrong. They're not bad players at all. But they weren't I was happy with the job that my defensive backs did on them, and I didn't have great defensive backs. But I'll say this also: he being Andy, concentrates on throwing to his tight ends. So a lot of times, wide receivers with Andy aren't going to have huge numbers. But Cubert's on the downside. Honeycutt's about middle age now. So I felt like on that deal, I think Andy got the better of that. Now, as far as Penniman goes on that trade with York, I think that's a good deal for both teams. Penniman is a level 17 tackle. He can play both right and left tackle. I think he's about he's let's put it this way. Andy had him playing left tackle, and he's also played right tackle for him. So he's got experience on both sides, is what I'm saying there. And he got, I think, a pretty fair trade with Jorvik. Second round would be about where I would have thought he would have gone too. So I thought that's a pretty even up trade for what both teams are probably wanting. But I think Andy got the better deal in the other trade with Beverly Bay.
Any other comments?
Yeah, can I just say, right, I'm going to call it right now. Super Bowl 35 will be the Mariners versus Centurions. If these,
Very good. Well, could be.
if these two coaches, if everything comes to fruition, I mean, it's been amazing. It's such a.
I think Andy told me he's got like 5. I think Andy said he's got something like 4 or 5 first-round draft picks traded for in season 32.
Yeah.
He's got a huge amount of draft picks in 32.
Yeah, and that's going to be good.
Round.
I look at some of this and I'm thinking about, there's always and the next one of these we do will be on the draft class, but there's always what you can do with the draft class, because I remember when Sam Bennett, when he had the Spitfires and he got, what was it, the entire 3rd round?
Fourth.
Was it 3rd or 4th round? He got like the entire round. But, at that point, and his team was really good for about 2 seasons. And it kind of, once it came to fruition. But, there's what can you do with those guys? And then another thing that'll be interesting to watch is, can you coach them all? Because you only have so many coaching points to distribute. And if you have all these first-round players, you can't necessarily push those points to everybody at once. They're going to get kind of spread out.
That's a very good point, though. I will say, if you've got a lot of low-level guys, right, which, let's imagine you've got loads of, like Simon just got a load of 7s and 8s, right? You can probably scatter around two points on loads and loads of your plays, and because they're low or whatever, you might find you actually get a really large number of level gains on those ones. The problem is then you're not coaching your top guys, so that's a big issue. But it's at least possible. And when Sam did it, everybody got 3 points or whatever because they were all low levels. So that, he was getting enormous gains. He was getting 10, 11, 12 games every week, which, was a lot. But,
he had massive numbers of pops, I remember.
Yeah, huge. He probably, that record will never be broken because it was just enormous. But, yeah, I know what you mean. Right, usually you say, I need those points because I've got to concentrate on something. But here's an interesting one, especially for if a new coach has taken over a team that's struggling, right? You need to concentrate on boosting, shall we say, the young guys, the guys who've got potential and what have you. You're probably not that interested in coaching the older guys who are probably your best players. Whereas you take a different example. Let's imagine you were Lee from last season. I don't know exactly, but I imagine that part of the reason why he didn't get so many pops was because he was coaching all high-level players who were all old, but were really top guys. And even though he got less pops, those pops were on the guys he really wanted to increase, and it shows by the end of the season. And he won. So if you have a season where you only pick up 25 pops, shall we say, but they're all on top starters who are high level, it's not as bad as it sounds, but you need to be in that position to do it. If you're one of the new guys and you're coming in your team's absolute pants, right? You want lower guys pick up 50 pops. You're while it's true you want certain players to pop more, you're happy to have it spread around a lot. And so they're the guys who really we've had this sort of in and out several times about what can you coach. But if you've got all really young guys and all really potential ones, you've got to make some attempt to coach most, if not all of them. And you've only got, what is it? Is it 19 slots, offense and defense? So you can't, right, whatever you do, you've got to, right, even if you've got the most equal, bland, whatever you're going, you've got to put 2 and 3 points on every single one of those plays if you do that. And if you're coaching all guys who are level 4, 5, 6, you're going to see an awful lot of pops because their chances are so much bigger. if you're coaching guys who are already level 16, 17, 18, or whatever you, right, your chances are, have a look. It actually gives you the percentages. Have a look and see what your chances are of gaining on them. They're much, much lower. But each one, if you're actually pursuing something important, is really worth it. And for me, that's what makes the top of those two trades there slightly peculiar, because the plague aren't going to suddenly become. I mean, they've made some good trades to improve their team. Don't get me wrong. They aren't suddenly become contenders for the bowl. Well, I don't think so. They've gained some good important players. I think 2-1 for the big stretch for them. But okay, their next seasons, one's rather than this season, which probably helps a bit. Whereas you get something like the bottom trade, that is an absolutely awesome deal for both teams. Jeff said, that one is arguably, from a logic point of view, that is arguably the best deal so far we've seen, in that the Centurions picked up a 2, which is exactly what they wanted, and the Jets picked up someone who is incredibly useful for their team. Was sort of, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Jeff, but I do think he's more of a right tackle than a left tackle, but for a passing team. But nonetheless, if you think great level, very useful, and I would have had him in my side up the shop.
So I will say this, right, with this trade is I had a 60-35-5 age 1 level 15 on the board that I would have given in a heartbeat for a round 2 pick. So, sometimes you got to claw and dig a bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on here. I'll start this one off. So the Wyverns, I think the Wyverns said something about taking a piece out of hammer shark meat or something like that sometime in the last. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, again, I don't know what they need, and I don't know the levels on this. I didn't write all those down, but certainly a 65 offensive tackle and a 65 defensive tackle is, that's where you want the QSTs to be. Those guys are perfect. But they gave, I don't know where the Wyverns are drafting, but I know it's mid to high. I think they got a decent draft. And I don't know if I would have given up a first and a third for an age 6 and an age 7, because, he's basically saying with this draft, this trade, he's coming to try to beat me. That's what he's saying. He wants to be a contender for the division title at the very least, because these guys aren't going to last long. And we'll see. Now I know he's coming. I'll do that thing. I won't say anything because I don't want to jinx myself. The second trade by the Zeppelin I find interesting, because I was talking to him about Hurst, and I think he did better. I think I was offering him around 3 too. Hurst is a I guess I put it in the wrong place, but he was a 20-60-20 age 0 with some I think it was like a level 8 or something like that, and I think he had an A or a B. So that's definitely a guy you can build on.
Yeah, Mike, he's a level 10.
10, yeah.
And he rolled a B.
Yeah.
I talked to him about that, about her, and here was the thing, and I gave him some advice here on that, only from the standpoint of saying, you got to decide if you're going to run the ball, look at your roster, what have you got? And with Hurst, he has a fullback, but he doesn't have the guards or the center to run fullback plays. And I don't see him building that for a while. So he decided on his own, we talked about, well, he wanted to know, what can you do? And I said, well, you can adjust your running backs or go find running backs that'll work for your scheming, what you're going to do, or if you're going to be a passing team.
Yeah.
So I said, if you're not going to use Hurst, he's still young enough where you can get a reasonable draft pick for him. And I thought he did, like you said, I thought he got about as good as he was going to get.
Yeah, I think he might have been able to pick. everybody wants, the fast running backs, and they are a little harder to stop. But all their plays are very, very dependent on the running back getting high levels, right? I mean, you can get a level 14, 15 fullback with the right line and get yards on him, but with the run flat plays, you really got to have, a good level fast guy. Yeah. I think he did good. I think he could have maybe squeezed a little more out. I'm looking back on that right now, and I'm thinking, maybe I probably should have got it because I don't have a good backup for Barbella, and that guy would have been really, really nice to get in. So I think I probably lost out on that one. I would say, though, I think I didn't talk to him about it, but if he's going to go pass and he has a fast line, one thing I will say is a strong running back is perfect for the draw. And if guys are, if guys think all you do is pass and they're going to, they're pass rushing 2 or 3 or all of their front line, and you got that draw play hanging back there with a decent, strong running back, you can quickly turn, oh, look, this just went for 9 to 18 yards. And that can quiet the stuff down.
I thought this was a great deal for Charlie. I completely get the Zep he's not really fitting into the Zep scheme, so I can see why Dan wanted to offload him. But for me, I spoke to Sam about this deal, and I just thought he was a steal. And I think he's gone about right. I think he's probably worth around 2 or even around 1, late round. But because Charlie's picking number 4, this doesn't seem too much of a steal to me. Do you know what I mean? It seems about right. Do you know what I mean? I think that early third is good, I think, for Dan. So that's great. So I don't feel like anybody got a massive win here, but I do think this is a great player for Charlie. He's already got Roscoe in his offense as a deep zone threat, and now he's got another key component. And if he drafted a running back, you're looking at another year of development before he can really make a damage. Here, he can plug him in. If he runs a +1 into BH, into level 11, start of the season, get a couple of pops on him, level 13, he's going to start making some inroads. Do you know what I mean? And in the season, he's level 15, 16 after aging. He's going to be a real threat in season 32. So I just think this is a great addition to Charlie's offense and makes him less one-dimensional and sort of makes up a little bit from the sort of, getting rid of Bro to the Lone Stars, last season, which I thought was a little bit of a mistake, really. But I think he's clawing it back a little bit with this. So yeah, well done, Charlie. I think that's good.
Well, they're definitely making moves in my division. I have to watch out for now. I think Hurst is going to be a guy we're going to hear from again. Though I do think he's going to be a player.
Good player. Great player.
Hurst is a steal in the sense that he probably should have been at least a 2. But what I don't know, perhaps you do, is that maybe does Charlie have some support for him at centre and guard? Because otherwise, 60 strength guys are not so useful.
No, but I think this is a secondary thing, John. I think it's not going to be his primary weapon. I think it's going to be a complement to Roscoe. I think having having the short yardage guy on the plunges, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and also for the draw play as well. I think it's just a great addition, so people can't just have their defensive line set up as pass rush. I just think he's a great addition. He's not. I don't think he's ever going to be like a primary weapon, but I think at level maybe I see him level 15, 16, 17 being a really good addition to a really strong passing game. Do you know what I mean?
Perhaps, and I totally take on board Michael's one about going to the draws, because that's very important. But it wouldn't surprise me if this means that we see Charlie attempting to draft some strong guards and centres. Because I think that would improve his value no end then. So. And he's got a high pick, just like the Zepkin have got a high pick as well. So they're already laughing. The other deal, I just want to go back to that because the Wyverns have shall we say, it's a stretch for them. I think the 1 and the 3 was probably overpaying a bit, but they're good players. And they will have an immediate effect. And for Michael, to whatever it is in their division, I think Conklin is a very good addition. And Canisius, he knows you run at the middle. So, these are not stupid players. He knows what's coming from you. So, from that sense, they're very sensible from the ones. Because here's another thing for less experienced players, right?
Yeah.
The most important thing you need to take on board above almost everything else is that the first thing you have to do is beat the guys in your division. And if you look at Michael's team as just an example, you've got the enormous weapon of Barbabella. That he's pretty good. He's got a good pass rush as well. So you're immediately trying to plug two of the gaps that you can see coming your way. If you were playing in somebody else's division, you might have different needs, and that's the whole point. You need to sort of assess what your division is doing almost before anything else, because that's how you get on. With Jeff, he already knows, he just said earlier, he knows that two of the people in his division have traded out a lot of guys. So he's already got an opportunity to move on. So he's looking at players, yes, partly through his division, but he knows he can actually afford to even look outside a bit because he's got that happy position. Not everybody gets that all the time, but you absolutely key. If you've got a guy who just won your division, you need weapons against him because you are going nowhere till you can beat him down. And I speak from sad, cruel experience.
See, that's
if you don't have weapons against them, you are screwed. So.
When I came in season 24, I had Kendall, who was a power running team, and then I had and then I also had the York, who was a running team, who was also a short zone passing team, and I had to build to that when I first got there. Yeah. But I've seen it coming, and hell, I'll give Kendall this. He's been talking about this 2 or 3 seasons now, that when he was done with his I formation, he was going to be winging the ball, and you see it's coming. And Andy said it also that, he couldn't get tight ends anymore down where he's drafting. So even last year, he was starting to go towards more of an I formation but passing a little bit more. So for me, if I don't change, and I think, and I'm sure that Jeff with Wyverns is thinking that for whatever his philosophy is going to be, is he's got to take care of that same business. I'm trying to change on the fly to make sure that I can have a couple of seasons where I can play with, now instead of running attacks, I'm going to be playing against passing attacks a lot. So, and I would assume that the Wyverns see the same thing, Con.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what level these guys were. I kind of wish I had that, because it'd be a much better trade.
Canisius was a 14, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But he was an old 14. But see, they didn't play him last year.
Yeah.
15.
Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty good.
15. I don't know Canisius. Conklin was 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what he's, Jeff's obviously signaling he wants to take the division, and I think that this is, and he wants, and I think, I don't know, but my bet is that he's got a lot of guys on his team that are getting older, and he's looking at, okay, look, I don't think I would have sacrificed a first round pick, especially where he's drafting at, because that's just so. If you got a first round pick anywhere above 15, it's usually you can get a pretty good player. And if you get one above 1 through 5, that's a guy you can almost build a team on, right? I mean, you can almost always just have somebody outstanding. But I think he's saying right now, it's like, look, next season he wants it to be him and the Hammer Sharks to see who takes the division. And then after that, he may go into a crash, and if he doesn't make it, then he's 32 and 33. He's got draft picks he's got to rebuild, but it definitely sends a signal, doesn't it?
Yeah, sorry, Mike, I'm going to have to go, mate. Unfortunately, I'm not going to finish the end of the podcast. I'm so sorry. I think it's just been an amazing time, really, for the whole of Delta. It shows how good the community is, that everyone's, it's going to be a whole new landscape next season with a lot of teams pushing on and sort of you know, really making those changes. It'd be really, it's going to be super exciting next season. I can't wait to see what happens in the draft as well. So amazing. I'm so sorry I'm going to have to shoot, mate. I'm sorry. Thanks for inviting me though, Mike. It's been amazing. And yeah, good luck with the last couple of things you need to cover. Sorry, dude.
Nope,
Take care, Lee.
Yeah, mate.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So lack of motivation is already kicking in.
It's all right. My poultry is probably deteriorating because this is the only amount I've got left of the bottle. So,
Well, we're almost done here.
Okay.
Let's pop through these. Okay, so this is La Jolla. I'll let since you're intimately familiar with them, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I'll get your take on this.
well, I could be wrong. Now, I could be wrong because I didn't check out enough detail quick enough. But this looks like a massive gain for the Lone Stars, which is quite annoying to say the least. Zollinger is a really talented short zone safety.
Yep.
Now, I can see into Aaron's mind. I know he's thinking about me here on this one. It's true, but Frankel, I didn't check the details of, so I've got a. But tight end, he had some rather strange QSTs, so I'm not certain how that. I wouldn't place much value on him, but I know there's a good level, so but and they gave up the Lone Stars did give up a 3, which is not nothing. But for me, the key in that entire deal is Zollinger is a great pickup.
Yep.
For the Lone Stars. Maybe the players have got a plan with that, but 40, 35, 25 does nothing for me personally. And as for the one with the Hornets down there, that one's less clear to me. I know Threefold was one of my old players that I know he's decent. And I know that the Hornets are very keen to improve their defence. So this one's less obvious to me. What I don't know, I've got no clue, frankly, is how good Allen is. I assume he's a backup for Aaron if something happens to Bro. But I actually don't know. I haven't really got much of a clue what level he is. That smacks of being a safe move by Aaron. That second trade, try and make sure nothing really bad happens to him. But that first one, to me, it looks obvious. All the rest is fluff. He really wanted Zollinger. But that doesn't mean the player's got a bad deal. But I just don't understand tight end. To me, I wouldn't have him in my squad. Those QSTs are absolutely chronic for
if you wanted that tight end specifically for nothing but pass protection, I think he would be valuable. But I don't see him as part of the actually offensive yard gaining piece. I mean, looking at this, the bottom trade was the one that occurred first. So I think Aaron picking up that round 3 probably freed up his round 3 for this trade up here. And I think if you take it, you gotta, again, if all I really wanted was pass protection, then maybe this tight end, if he's got some levels to him, is worthwhile because speed and strength work well for pass protection. And then, so that's maybe equal to a flat defensive tackle. I mean, it's a flat defensive tackle is one of those guys. If you're playing a 4-4, yeah, that, fine, but not super sexy.
I'm pleased he took him. He's useless, so I'm happy with that. But he could be high level. So that I can't.
The safety. I mean, the safety's outstanding. Age 6, and then I think around 3. That's the safety is definitely worth around 3. La Jolla giving up their round.
Level 18.
Yeah, he's super high level. So that guy, even with some bad aging, you're going to get probably 3 seasons out of it.
I think the interesting thing about that trade, though, is if you look at it, if the Hornets looking down the line is Bethesda, or whatever his name is, that quarterback. Yeah. You know what? The guy was a level 5, but he's a 60 strength quarterback who might be worth. I wonder if the Hornets are looking at, here's who I'm going to develop. Here's a guy. I'm sure he's got it in his mind that he can develop him. Now, I don't know what his level is. I know he was a level 5 at draft, but I don't know. He picked up some attributes along the season. So that may be, plus it's like you said too, on the other hand, Aaron picked up a couple of draft picks one for the big one will be for season 32. But to me, it looked like the Zollinger and threefold deal. He sent a safety out to the Hornets. He gets one back in from Beverly Bay, so that's kind of a push deal for him there.
Free safety who is quick.
Yes.
Right now, I don't want to again hold a conspiracy theory on Aaron, but he noticed I'm not particularly attacking the deep zone. Off goes the quick guy. I shouldn't keep bringing it in, but and he brought in a great big tech guy as safety instead. I'm just pointing out the obvious. You can see the two here. You can see the two deals. He brings in a great, right. This is typical Aaron, which is why he drives me nuts. He's such a good coach. He brings in a great tech one, and he lets a quick one go because he doesn't think he's going to need him so much. That's not belittling the other guys in the division, right? But obviously, it's a massive redevelopment of the Chaos. Who've got no coach at the moment, what have you. And perhaps he envisages the Enigma as a lesser problem because I won the division this time, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't like anybody else but him.
Well, that's for sure.
I totally get that. I totally get it. Right, and he expects to take the division back. Right. You can take any division. He expects to take it back, as he's sort of right, and so he's a bit nervous. So he's obviously moving to try and stop what he sees. He sees him bringing in a load of tight ends. He goes out and gets a big tech safety and dumps with quick safety. To be honest, I admire him because I think that's really good. Again, that's something a lot of coaches can learn from. Your division is the most important. If you see your guard, someone else in your division making a move in a certain area, maybe you need to make a move to try and counter whatever they're doing. Fair play. It's good play. If Michael sees one of the guys in his division, well, he's only seen the Wyverns do it, but if he sees him making a move in a certain area, inevitably your right decision is to try and counter that, isn't it? But in this case, he was actually doing it to counter you, but the principle is the same. So if you suddenly saw, Jeff, I don't know, the Enlightenment making a massive move and picking up a load of guys in the circle, you'd sit there and say, well, I'm going to make sure I can stop that. So these two put together, which I really like this, by the way, it really shows it almost beyond anything you can think of in any other division. He sat there and he analysed what's going on and he said, yeah, I want him and I don't need him.
Well, I think if you look at it based on just who the champions this year, so I won the East. I'd say that 50-50 shot. I'm going to win the East next time, and maybe higher. And I'm a short pass team primarily, right? Primarily, it's if I'm passing, probably short passing. The Metros, known as a short pass team, they may have some run flat going on and stuff, but it's going to be a lot of short zone. They won last time. They're still going to be strong. They're making moves to stay strong. That's a short pass team. Worley is his biggest competitor in his division, short pass team. And then, that leaves you with Corpus. right? So, I mean, yeah, and I think at the end of the day, if you're looking at trying to stop the short zone, it's a middle linebacker. If you're playing a 4-3, and a tech middle linebacker and a tech safety. That tech free safety is so important for the short zone. If you're looking at the deep zone, you want fast corners, right? That's the first thing you want to go to is those fast corners. So I think this is a definite move. Now, don't get me wrong. The one thing I will say is I think a 60 quickness, a 60 Q safety gets you, or it might be a 55 60, but I'm pretty sure a 60 gets you like sticky hands or something like that, where there's some bonuses to interceptions, which could be good. But in the general scheme of things, if you're just looking at the basic formula, that high tech free safety is where you want to go if you want to stop the short zone. All right. Last but not least, I'll let you take off on this, Jeff. Here's some little hits.
As far as I looked at that Beckford last night, that trade. Hang on a second. That was I thought with Beckford, he's getting. I thought this was probably I know Beckford's not a starter, and neither's the running back. I think what Beverly Bay gets out of this, though, is a receiving running back. That's, I think, what he was looking for, because the guy is a 50T running back.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Beverly Bay was looking for, because they do throw so much too. So he gets him a T running back out there, and then I think or is that, let's see, wait a minute, or did I get that backwards? Sacramento gets the T running back. Safety wise, I don't know that honestly how much Beckford's going to help. He's one of those guys that his QSTs aren't great any way you look at it. He's a fairly young guy, but I see him as a special teamer. Just that's about it. He's a special teamer on that one.
One of the if things wouldn't have fallen apart last week, I had a slide. I'll probably use this for next week, but it talked about the peaked. I had a category called peaked at high school, and I would put Beckford in that category, right? I mean, a 45, 35, 20 safety is useful for washing your car. Yep.
You're right. Now, as far as the second trade goes, in its own way, what Andy gets a draft pick out of it. He gets a second round draft pick. By far and away, the best player on this deal was Richter. The Hornets pick up a good inside linebacker. He's an ADT. He had 51 passes defended last year. 3 interceptions or so. And he's a tackler. He's tough. He's a good ball player. A cabin boy, I think he's just kind of thrown in there to be something else, to make it look a little bit better. But he's cabin boy is definitely a T corner, but he's a young guy, needs development, but he's a young guy. So for that one, again, I like from York's standpoint, they get a good second round pick for him this season. And for Melksham, they definitely got him a starting middle linebacker who's a quality inside linebacker. I like that trade. Actually, I think this one kind of benefits both guys, actually, when you get right down to it. Andy got what he wanted, a high pick, and a fairly high pick, and Melksham gets a starter that's going to help his defense a lot, which, as we know, he needed help on defense. And then as far as the Worley and Beverly Bay, you know, on that one, I thought Jonathan, you got more out of Shields last year than I thought you were going to. I'll be real honest. When I saw your running backs go down, I thought, holy crap, you got, and you did have a problem. We're not kidding anybody, but the guy came in and averaged 7 yards a carry. I thought that was just outstanding for a guy that wasn't even starting. So Cantrell, again, he's a 35, 65 guy. As far as outside linebackers go, personally, this is just me, but if I take an outside linebacker with those QSTs, I'd like to see him have some technique. But you know what? He's a little bit of an older player, but as we've been talking about now, outside linebackers are more important than what Kendall lets on, and he knows it too. Outside linebackers are going to make a big difference with the way the speed game's going right now. So he certainly gives you depth there. Shields, I'm not, Shields has just kind of been around, and then all of a sudden you stuck him in there, and I don't know how much of it was his ability and how much of it was the system you were playing, but he really showed something there. Age-wise, they're about the same, though. So I'd call that a fairly even trade. Maybe Beverly Bay, depends on how he's going to use him, and it depends on, I don't even know what level Shields is, to tell you the truth. But I think it was a fairly even trade.
Yeah, I like all these trades as good examples for new coaches who are kind of their foot in the water to look at. Like I said, the first one, that safety, I don't think he's really useful for anything. But they are both age one. He just absolutely had to have something. You could have him floating around as a backup for either safety, because he could do either job okay. The second one, I thought that was a pretty good one. I was actually kind of looking at Cabin Boy a little bit. Like I said, I think tech corners, I've seen them. If you're really worried about the short game, they're useful, but I don't think they're as useful as fast cornerbacks. That inside linebacker, I think he's definitely going to be helpful there.
Yeah.
And then, I think the bottom trade, it's a good flip. I don't know levels, but same age. I don't know pre-aging either. But you got a solid QSTs for a fast running back, and you got solid QSTs for an outside line, especially a right. I mean, that's a really good right outside linebacker. 35, 65 is a pretty good next point.
For the one I'm actually involved in, obviously, because I let the two stud outside running backs go, then the backup is less useful, shall we say, unless I'm suddenly going to change to playing in the eye or something. So it's a question of what I could get for him, and I got a guy who was of a very equivalent level who will operate as a backup for my outside linebacker. And as you know, I have to bear in mind that I have the foul bro playing in our division, so a backup is always handy. On the other deals, I totally see the middle one, Richter and Cabin Boy for it, but I think 2 was a bit high, so that's a bit of a result for the Hornets, who have been, let's be honest, sorry for the Centurions. Let's be honest, the Centurions have been getting some quite good value for their guys. Richter, he was a decent player. I was interested in him myself. That said, until I got Zoid. That said, obviously he'll lose levels and aging. My issue with Cabin Boy is he really suits a division where they constantly pass the short zone because he's gagging to be the nickel back, 3-3 nickel defense. I'm not certain if that's his division. I mean, it is to an extent, but we'll see. The jury's out, I think. And as for the first one, well, I think of Beckford absolutely useless with 45-35, but tech back is a very specific one. But on the other hand, all the Barons were out there saying, "I want a tech back." Fair play to Glenn. That's what he said he wanted. That's what he got.
Yep.
You can't fault him for wanting it. I assume that means you've got a use for him, so he's going to use him. And that's if that's what you want, and you're that later, that's great. Personally, I've always struggled with tech back, so I've actually traded in the tech back because sometimes I have to think about how I can use him, or if I trade him out again after the draft. But if you've got the right team, you can use a tech back. That's great, but most of the time you haven't. And I'm always haunted by my very first season when I had total awesome tech backs who did virtually nothing. If you remember, in the last whatever we call it, broadcast, whatever it's called, we had of the season with Lee. I said I didn't know what I was doing. I certainly didn't when it came to running backs because I picked 2 tech backs with a deep passing team, but I didn't know what to do with them. So they can work if you've got the right situation. Frankly, I think they work much better with a short zone team, but if you've got an idea in mind, that's great. But remember that the tech backs, what are they useful for? Jump offs and screens, from what I can see. If you're going to do a lot of both of those, then great. But otherwise,
so
they're a limited value. You've got to sell them to me. I just don't. But anything's better than Beckford because those QST are just they're tragic. So I'm assuming that the Royal Barons have won that trade, but I don't actually know for sure because they're both strange mutants as far as I can see. All of those three, none of those 3 deals you can see on the screen now will change the Delta universe.
No, none of them are. They're all careful little specific trades to potentially fill some holes and stuff like that. I do think tech backs, and it's something I'll probably be looking for. If you dig into the advanced rules, tech backs are actually useful in, I think, throwing a log block. There's a certain type of following block you can use if you set up your runs with a fullback and a tech back. We're having
they're great for screens.
Yeah,
they're great for screens.
And they're good for dump off guys. They're good for screens. They're good for the option.
Yeah, they're good for the option. Actually, they're quite useful on the rollout as well.
Yeah. So there's those kind of off things that people don't plan for a lot that I think you could use them for that where they would be good.
But you've got to have a plan in mind if you want to take tech backs.
Yeah, you need a specific.
There's no point taking them unless you've got a sort of he's going in that gap, but that's how I can use him, right? The Metro's got awesome numbers out of their tech backs.
No, yeah.
Over the last 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, absolutely awesome numbers. But they had a whole game plan in which the tech backs were part of that plan, and that was, so that's useful for them. I mean, they were great because they were using them a lot in the quick pass as well.
Well, when
that's great, but you've got to right. There's no point taking him unless he's useful. But I just can't see the value of Beckford at all. I can't. I you know,
No,
perhaps I'm biased. I can't see it. So frankly, it's a game for him, whoever it is.
yep. Yeah, like I said, so I think next week, and I'm going to invite you guys and a bunch of coaches, and we'll see what I can get for 4. We're going to look at the draft, and when we look at the draft, one of the things I want to talk about is useless players, because there are
Yeah.
some out there that you shouldn't even take in the last round. I mean, they're it's if I have to put a guy in the hole so I can fill the team, that's when you use them. And I think a safety who has a 20 for strength, you could use as a free safety. He could go either side, but he's either got to go. You got to go for 55, 60 on strength, or else a 20 on strength. That's kind of your say. And there's some TST things I think that young coaches kind of need to learn about. But
stage advice on the safeties, the tight ends have the same issue.
There's
right. If you want 20 strength, or preferably 55, 60 strength.
Yep.
Right? You don't want, and the centres to an extent as well. You don't want the guys who are totally level. You get rid of how low value, right? A lot of new guys don't realize how low value the flat ones in certain positions are.
Yeah.
You don't want a 30, 35, 35.
There's some weird things that work. I mean, I've had luck with a 20, 40, 40 tight end when I was trying to run to the outside, and
that's not level. That's 22. Right. It's the 30, 35, 35 guys.
It's the straight flat ones that kill you. Yeah.
They really kill you. Doesn't matter how good they get. They could be level 18. They're still rubbish.
Yep.
Avoid. And I don't want to jump the gun on the draft one, and that's entirely right. But I will say one thing, because it's probably quite important in case any newer guys are making trades in that division. Round 1 this time is much more level through the round than I can recall ever, which means that the first few picks often are way better than the ones who are picking at the end of the round. But actually, even though there's still a difference, there always is, the guys are going to, I know, I've checked it, the guys are going to be picking later in the round are going to get guys who are much closer in value to the guys who are early than you've got in many of our previous drafts. And they probably should bear that in mind if they're getting offered trades. I think that's probably quite important.
So my wife is reminding me that she's in charge of my fund.
Yeah.
Hang on, can I mention one other thing? See that?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
I'm with you. All right. So until we meet up again, it's been a good time. I enjoyed having you all. I hope this is. It might get a little noodly, but I hope that the young coaches kind of can get some of the ideas from the grades, and evaluation of players is an important thing. And although it seems small, one thing I'll say is trading is very much a social function. If you're a wallflower and you think you're just going to sit there and draft, and don't get me wrong, I would tell young coaches, if you have a choice between maintaining your high round draft picks, first through fourth, and then trading on the lower end, I would start out that way, because a first round draft pick that you get, and especially if you get one of those top guys who's in the league and you develop him and he's got good QSTs, you're going to get stuff out of him, and he's going to make you bond with your team, and he's going to be a guy that you're going to want to keep and hold on to. And even though they're digits, they start seeming like real players, and that's a lot of fun. So I would lean, if you're young, to, really work on the draft. and maybe start out with dipping your toe in the trades for filling those specific things you need, and don't necessarily give up draft picks right away. Look more at, hey, can you trade a guy you don't need with a lower round draft pick for something you need than dropping here's my first round draft pick right away. But for some of you who've been around a long time and you're waiting for that little thing that'll give you that extra edge to get you, into the bowl, maybe you need to go big and maybe you need to dump next year's top round picks. But so 3 great coaches. I want to thank you all. Jeff, I'm
Hey, no problem.
take the division. Jonathan, as always, I know you're going to play tough. You and Aaron are fighting back. And then, of course, we have the reigning champion, Lee. So with that, I'm going to let you all go. And thank you.